Hi, I'm Steve Bolander. It was just over 3 years ago that Panasonic introduced the WJ MX-10 digital video mixer, a device that allowed videographers to dissolve, wipe, and superimpose two unsynchronized video sources without the need of gen-lockable cameras or time-based corrected VCRs. Needless to say, this $2,000 device caught on very quickly, especially among special event videographers who didn't have the budgets to spend on $50,000 A/B roll systems. The MX-12 came on the scene a short while after, bringing YC processing into Panasonic's digital mixer line. And then came the WJ AVE-5, another mixer with more features than the MX-12 at a lesser price, but still only passing 370 lines of horizontal resolution. By now, all of us high-end event videographers were hoping for a digital mixer that had the best of everything. And of course, it couldn't cost much more than $4,000. Well, Panasonic did it again. They brought us the WJ MX-50. The MX-50 is more than just an MX-12 with AVE-5 wipes added on. It's a full-feature special effects generator with 4 inputs, dual frame synchronizers, digital video effects, color correctors, and over 300 different wipe patterns. One very interesting feature of the MX-50 is its ability to perform both luminance key and true line Chroma-Key. Another feature of interest is the MX-50's video compression capabilities, which is continuously variable, not just a picture-in-picture. This videotape will take you on a complete tour of the MX-50, everything from basic operation to advanced system configuration. And along the way, we'll point out some tricks that you can perform that aren't even mentioned in the owner's manual. Let's start out first with the layout of the MX-50's controls. Starting in the upper left-hand corner of the MX-50, we find the power switch and the wipe positioner joystick. When the joystick is turned on, the selected wipe pattern can be moved anywhere on the screen. By engaging the scene grabber, the entire picture that is within the wipe pattern window can be literally moved to another physical location. This can be done with one video input source or 2, thus permitting a secondary picture-in-picture to be placed during post-production rather than having to plan ahead for it during shooting. The color correction section offers 2-bus chroma alteration with color intensity controlled by the chroma knob and the color phase and tint being controlled by the RGB joystick. Pressing the respective bus button once engages just the color intensity, and pressing it twice engages the color intensity and the RGB joystick. It should be noted, however, that the color corrector will not correct the A and B buses with different degrees of color correction. The LED display indicates both audio level of signals passing through the MX-50's audio mixer and the number of the selected wipe pattern that has been called up. Also, the transition speed of the auto take function and the master fader are displayed in the number of video frames that will elapse during the transition. The matte generator permits the assigning of 8 different background colors to either of the 2 input buses. The colors selected by pressing either of the 2 cursor buttons. In addition to the 8 primary colors, color bars can be selected as a matte color. The intensity of the background color can be adjusted with the level control, and by pushing gradation, each of the 8 colors will have a top to bottom gradated texture. The memory section of the MX-50 supports 2 functions. It permits the memorization of up to 8 wipe pattern and digital effects combinations, and it allows a user to enter the preset digital video effects section called the special mode. To memorize a combination of effects, first clear the MX-50's memory by turning the power off and then turning it back on again while simultaneously holding down the memory and shift buttons. After you have selected a combination of wipe patterns, digital effects, and other panel settings that you might want to use on a frequent basis, press the memory button once, and then press a memory location of 1 through 8. Locations 5 through 8 are accessed by pressing Shift, followed by 1 through 4. Once the memory location has been fed its information, its respective LED will blink 3 times and then go off. Recalling a memory location is as simple as pressing the desired location number and then pressing auto take to effect the call up of effects. These memories will remain in the MX-50 as long as the main power switch on the rear of the MX-50 is turned on and power is provided to the unit. Panasonic has entered 8 special preset effects into the MX-50 that can be accessed by pressing the memory and shift buttons together while the power is already turned on. Once again, effects 5 through 8 are obtained by pressing shift first. Effect number 1 is called Mosaic Mix, where a transition from one bus to another is accompanied by a variable size mosaic that softly takes you to the next inline video input. This is great for entering into a dream sequence or showing an elapse of time. Effect number 2 is called Stream, where a compressed picture from the next inline video input flies on from either the left or right side of the screen, depending on which side the wipe position or joystick is located when the effect occurs. A great effect for introducing new segments of a video or for photo montages. Effect number 3 is the corkscrew, a fly-on, fly-off effect with a twist to it. Like all the other effects in the special mode, the corkscrew can transition between two video sources or one video source and a background color. Effect number 4 is called the bounce, another fly-on, fly-off effect that is great for industrial type productions where humor might want to be added. Effect 5 is the flip. Two video sources from buses A and B toggle back and forth while temporarily being backed by a chosen matte color. This is superb for introducing multiple characters or geographical locations. Effect 6 is the shutter mode. Either a curtain or a circle wipe closes on the live video and then freezes it in the still mode. Great for simulating a still camera capturing the action. Effect 7 is called vibrate. Kind of the same effect that you would get when someone trips over your tripod leg at a wedding. The 8th preset effect is called the satellite, which produces a circling compressed picture that should be used very sparingly unless you have an ample supply of motion sickness pills. To exit the special mode, once again press the memory and shift buttons simultaneously. A quick note, entering or exiting the special mode on the MX-50 will delete any frozen or still picture that you might have captured, so be very careful. Also, upon exiting the special mode, the MX-50 will return to its original panel setting that was called up prior to entering the special mode. The Program Out section permits the user to direct any one of 3 different signals to the main output connector of the MX-50, either bus A, bus B, or the effect combination of the two. This section can be very useful for sending whatever is on bus A to the main output while you set up an upcoming effect on bus B, which will be viewable from the preview output of the mixer. By the way, the preview output is a monitorable signal that always displays whatever will be coming from the effects out, regardless of which program out button is pressed. Moving along into the wipe pattern section of the MX-50, we find 18 different controls that are used to create the various wipe patterns that can take place between bus A and bus B. Panasonic states that there are 287 patterns available. However, by combining the multi-mode with the pairing mode to existing wipe patterns, you actually come up with 405 different patterns. And this doesn't even include wipes that you can add borders or variable aspect ratios to, which we'll talk about in just a moment. In the upper left-hand corner of the wipe pattern section is the border button. Pushing it once provides a standard border, pushing it twice provides a heavy border, and pushing it a third time turns off the border completely. The color of the border is determined by the selected background matte color. If the background color yellow is selected, the border color will be blue. If white is selected, the border color will be black. In other words, the border color will always be the color bar reciprocal of the background color. Next to the border button is the soft button, which adds a soft edge to the wipe pattern. The owner's manual only indicates 1 degree of softness. However, if you push this button a second time, you'll get an even softer version of the wipe pattern edge. And of course, pushing it a third time disengages the soft edge altogether. A nice feature on the MX-50 that the MX-12 and AVE-5 don't have are wipe direction buttons. By selecting one way, the pattern will always originate from one side of the screen every time the T-bar or auto take button is engaged. Pushing the reverse button does exactly that. It reverses the direction of the normal wipe pattern. The one-way button and the reverse button can be used together. Now here's where the MX-50 takes a grand departure from its ancestors, its ability to do compression. Not just picture-in-picture, but true variable compression that can be positioned anywhere on the screen. By pushing the compression button once, the oncoming picture from the next inline bus begins to compress and then opens itself to a full screen. When the compression button is pushed twice, both the oncoming picture and the outgoing picture become compressed. Now, the compression feature only works with the straight wipe button, the corner wipe button, the split wipe button, and the square wipe button. It will not compress a picture within a circle wipe or a diagonal wipe. And it will not compress a still or freeze frame picture. As a matter of fact, any picture that is in the still or freeze frame will be lost while entering or exiting the compression mode, so be careful. The slide function, however, is a little bit more forgiving. Pressing the slide button once permits the oncoming picture to slide in over the existing picture, and pressing the slide button twice engages a push-on, push-off effect capability. And the nice thing about the slide function is that these operations can be performed with still or freeze frame pictures. The slide function will only operate with the straight wipe and the corner wipe, but like the compression function, you can add borders or soft edge, as well as the one-way and reverse buttons to designate its direction. The multi button engages a feature where wipe patterns will appear as multiples of themselves, in some cases up to 6 different variations depending on which basic wipe pattern is selected. By the way, each wipe pattern, its respective variation, and each multi has its own designation number that will appear in the LED display window at the top of the MX-50, which makes keeping track of a given pattern much easier. Once again, all of the wipe patterns used with the multi function may have a border or soft edge. A further variation of a wipe pattern can be achieved by pushing the pairing button, which creates an overlap crisscross version of the pattern on the straight wipe, the corner wipe, the diagonal wipe, and the split wipe. It too can be used in conjunction with the multi function. Venetian blind type effects can be obtained on the straight wipe, the corner wipe, the diagonal wipe, the triangle wipe, and the split wipe by pressing the blinds button. However, this effect cannot be used in conjunction with the multi function or the pairing mode. How many times have you said that you wish the box wipe or the circle wipe was just a little bit more oblong or taller? The MX-50 has a feature called aspect ratio, where any of the window type wipes such as a square, circle, diamond, or oval can be stretched either vertically or horizontally by pressing the aspect button and then varying the shape of the wipe by turning the aspect ratio knob. Some interesting effects can be had by using this function with compression or the scene grabber. There are 7 basic wipe patterns in the bottom row of the wipe patterns section. Each of the 7 buttons can be toggled through to obtain the desired wipe, which is usually some variation of the primary wipe. For instance, pressing the corner wipe button once will give you a corner wipe from the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Pressing it again will move the wipe to the lower left-hand corner, and so on. The variations of the split wipe are a curtain-type wipe, a sandwich wipe, and a 4-cornered wipe. The mosaic wipe pattern goes from wraparound to wipe across, to stair step, to checkerboard. And the square wipe pattern varies itself from box wipe, to circle wipe, to oval wipe, to diamond wipe. One thing that you might want to keep in mind is the fact that you don't have to have 2 different input video sources to perform all the wipes that we've just described. One input source can be assigned to both the A bus and the B bus, which can look especially nice when using the compression function or the slide mode. Those of you who are following along in your owner's manual will see a wipe pattern chart on pages 28 through 31, which shows the structure of the 405 different wipes and how to recreate them.
Welcome!
Hey, hi kids!
Hi everybody, welcome to our meeting.
I'm Jog.
I'm Shuttle.
And welcome to Jog and Shuttle's
Video Clubhouse.
Hey, you're probably wondering what Jog and Shuttle's Video Clubhouse is all about.
I'll bet they are.
I am too, and I know you are.
Oh, definitely.
We're professional event videographers, and we're here to give you tips and tricks on how to improve your video productions.
We're going to pass along little video tidbits that we've picked up along the road over the years, and maybe a few of them might come in helpful for you, and maybe you'll have a few that'll be helpful to us. So here's what we'd like you to do.
We'd like you to take your tips and tricks. If you got a product evaluation on a new piece of video equipment, if you've done some very creative piece of video work you'd like to share as far as production techniques go, send them to this address.
Right here at the bottom of your screen.
Right here, and we will air them on our next Jog and Shuttle Video Clubhouse tape.
And when we have our next meeting, you're going to be seeing all kinds of little tidbits from us, such as how do you keep your cables together without constantly coming apart.
Well, I'll tell you how I keep mine together. I use a rubber band from the newspaper this morning.
Well, I'm sure we all have used rubber bands, but you know, after a while, a rubber band has a tendency to just come apart and snap your fingers off. So what's the next best thing?
I have no idea.
A hair band. You can buy 20 of these at your local drug or variety store for about $2, and they last forever. Simply use them like a rubber band, snap it around a couple of times, your cables stay nice and secure, and you're never going to have to worry about losing them.
Now that's amazing. I never would have thought of that. Would you?
Great idea. You got a couple of good ideas? Pass them along for our next meeting. We'd love to hear from you. High 8 band, Super VHS preferred, please.
Yeah, 2 minutes or less, and we'll get it on the next tape, and see you at the next meeting of John and Shuttle's
Video Clubhouse. Bye!
Right in the middle of the MX-50 is the digital effects section. Those of you who are stepping up from the MX-10 or the MX-12 will appreciate the MX-50's dual frame synchronizers that permit the assigning of digital effects to both the A bus and the B bus. The single gray button turns the effects section completely on or completely off, and the two buttons next to it tell you which bus the effects are being added to. You can only set up the effects on one bus at a time. However, once they are set up, both effects buses will work simultaneously. For instance, push the A bus select button and add mosaic and negative. Now push the B bus select button and call up strobe and paint. Choose a white pattern and toggle between the two buses, and you'll see different yet simultaneous effects on both input sources. Starting left to right, we have the negative button, which reverses the color polarity of the image. Great for bizarre effects or transferring film negatives to video. The mosaic button adds 31 increments of mosaic block to your image, a nice time passage transition, or superb for concealing the identity of the mafia informer in your family. This is achieved by feeding the same video source to both buses and selecting a circle wipe. Mosaic is added to only one bus that is within the wipe and then positioned over the desired area of the picture. The mono button strips all color from the picture for that nostalgic black and white TV look. The paint button adds varying degrees of posterization for creating an oil painting type of look. This effect works best with well-lit or outdoor footage. The MX-50 has two ways of capturing a frozen picture, both of which are done in the still mode. By pushing still when a selected screen of video is to be frozen, the MX-50 grabs one field of video imagery and holds it in memory until the still button is released or canceled by some other function. If the frame button is engaged while an image is in the still mode, the entire frame or two fields of video will be displayed, yielding higher resolution. The problem is that if you capture a moving picture while the frame button is turned on, you'll get fluctuation between the two captured fields. The frame button works best for freezing photographs or objects with very little movement. Selecting the strobe mode puts the respective input bus into a variable speed strobing effect that is controlled by the time knob above it. It should be noted that on the MX-50, clockwise rotation of either the strobe speed, auto take speed, or auto fade speed slows the duration time down. Counterclockwise actually speeds the effect up. The multi-mode takes the incoming picture and multiplies it times 4, times 9, and times 16, depending upon how many times you push the multi-button. The multi-mode will display the incoming picture from left to right at a speed determined by the time knob above it. By pushing the once button, the sequential pictures will fill the multiple boxes once and then stop. Pushing the repeat button will permit the sequence of pictures to continue indefinitely. Since each of the two digital effects buses work independently of one another, the multi-mode can be used on one bus and combined by way of a wipe or mix with the other bus. Probably the best effect in the digital effects section is the trail mode. Pressing this button brings on the picture with a trail of itself being left behind until the screen is filled. The trail speed is controlled by the time knob, and the effect starting position is determined by the location of the white position joystick, either left or right. The final function on the digital effects section is the AV Synchro, which when activated locks onto the beat of music being fed into the MX-50's audio mixer and then triggers whatever effect is called up in the digital effects section. The sensitivity of the AV Synchro trigger is adjusted with the level knob. The only effect it won't trigger is the trail function. What was once called the superimpose function on the MX-10, the MX-12, and the AVE-5 is now called the downstream key section on the MX-50. Operation of it is identical to its predecessors in that the downstream key mode must be first turned on, and then a choice of 3 different input sources can be selected: bus A, bus B, or an external camera that is either gem lockable or not. Even though the key source can be a pre-recorded videotape, the downstream keyer works best with a camera source. By using a copy stand, a title card can be created with print media such as transfer type, computer printed paper, or even logos pulled off brochures or stationery. Select the input source and slowly bring up the low-level key on the right until a solid title is present. If your title lettering is white on a black background, then raise the low-level key all the way and make your adjustments with the high-level key slider. The keyed-in color will be a color selected by the matte generator or background colors section, or it can be a solid white. 6 different degrees of edging may be added around the perimeters of the title lettering. Normal, as you see now, narrow border, wide border, narrow shadow, wide shadow, or a drop shadow. When using the white title key, you may select any of the background colors for the edging. And if you use a background color for the title, the edging will always be black. The reverse button, of course, switches the key signal with the image that it is being overlaid upon. The MX-50 will accept through its external character generator port all 3 of Panasonic's optional character generators, the KB12, the KB15, and the new KB50, which is the most professional looking and the easiest to operate with its full-size keyboard. The KB50 has a 10-page memory with up to 11 lines of characters per page. 3 different fonts are available: Roman Normal, Gothic Normal, and Roman Italic, all of which can be mixed on one title page. The horizontal size and the vertical size of lettering can also be adjusted during the editing mode of the KB50. In addition to standard alphabet characters, the KB50 also has a symbol mode from which you can select a variety of non-letter characters that can be added to the title page. The KB50 will perform upper crawl, lower crawl, scrolling, and enter and exit the screen with a window type wipe. The downstream key section on button must be engaged for the KB50 to send its titles to the MX-50. And the KB50 character generator can be used in conjunction with the rest of the downstream key section's other functions, thus providing a combination of titles from 2 different sources to be superimposed over a video image.
Hi, and welcome back. It's product review time on Jog and Shuttle's Video Clubhouse. This time we're going to take a look at the new Panasonic AG455 Super VHS camcorder, the one that just came out recently to replace the AG450. It's got some nice new features on it, and I'm sure Panasonic's intentions were quite well when they decided to use this as a replacement for the 450. However, does it make the grade? Well, you be the judge. First, the good news. The AG455 has some improvements that make it a slight upgrade from the AG450. There's a side-mounted speaker that permits the live monitoring of audio as you're shooting. There are now hi-fi tracks to supplement the linear track, permitting stereo recording. An indented shoulder pad is built in, making the AG450 a little bit more comfortable to shoot off the shoulder. The basic zoom range has been increased to 12 power. The low-light capability has been improved substantially, as we see in a split-screen comparison with the AG450. Right now we're looking at the 2 cameras with studio lighting. And now the studio lighting has been turned off to just ambient room light, similar to what you might encounter at a wedding. And now the room is completely dark with both cameras in the respective gain up or low light mode. Panasonic added a number of new features over that of the AG450 on this camera, such as digital zoom, strobe, scene memory, and scene transition. As a matter of fact, the AG455 duplicates a lot of the functions on its consumer model PVS 770, and that's where my complaints begin. There is no manual zoom lever on the AG455. All zooming must be done with the power zoom, which is a 2-speed, but the fastest speed isn't any faster than the AG450's normal speed. And you would think that with a total of 3 audio tracks available, they might be accessed by separate input jacks. Well, they're not. The only audio input on the AG455 is a single 8-inch mini stereo jack, which completely disengages the top-mounted mic. Also be prepared to buy a whole new set of camera batteries, as the AG455 uses a different one altogether. The filter lens diameter is 49mm instead of 55, and no longer available is the heavy-duty carrying case that accompanied the AG450. It's now a very consumerish and awkward plastic molded case. I had some problems with the AG455 staying in focus throughout the zoom range while in manual focus, which leads me to believe that there might be a back-focusing problem with the particular unit that we tested. And returning to the automatic iris mode from the manual mode sometimes required the camera to be completely shut down and then repowered. On a scale of 1 to 10, the Jog and Shuttle Video Clubhouse judges give the new AG455 a 3.5. That compared to the 6.5 that we have given the AG450.
Moving along into the source input section of the MX-50, we see 2 rows of input select buttons that assign up to 4 different video sources to the 2 main buses of the digital mixer. The 5th button on each row calls up the match generator as an input source. These 2 video buses can be switched between by using the manual T-bar or the auto take function. The T-bar features a heavy long throw transition that is reminiscent of $65,000 production switchers found in a lot of TV stations. The auto take function automatically creates the transition by adjusting the transition rate speed and pressing the auto take button. Immediately above the input select buttons are the transition select buttons, wipe, mix, and NAM. The wipe button engages the wipe section of the MX-50. The mix button creates a dissolve between the 2 buses, and the NAM, which means non-additive mix, provides a dissolve in which a blending of the brightest images on the 2 different buses are presented rather than the crossfade of a regular mix. In the upper right-hand corner of the mix effect section is the audio follow button. When engaged, crossfades the audio from the outgoing video input to the incoming video input. Now, the audio going through the MX-50 will be the signal that accompanies whatever video input source is selected. In other words, you cannot hear the audio from source 1 if source 2 and 3 are assigned to the A and B buses. There are several ways of getting around this problem that we'll discuss later on in this tape. Once again, we come to a couple of features that don't exist on the MX-10, the MX-12, or the AVE-5. Luminance key and Chroma-Key, both of which take the specified background and replace it with a video signal from another bus. The luminance key function detects the presence of a light or dark background and then keys in the alternate bus video signal over it. The degree of luminance is adjusted with a slice control. Some interesting effects can be obtained by using the luminance key to replace dark or shaded areas with unexpected video. The Chroma-Key function even has more impact due to the fact that you can specify a specific background color behind your key subject to be the portion of the video that becomes replaced by another video signal. Even though red or green can be used as a background color, it has been determined that a certain shade of blue works best with the Chroma-Key function. Accordingly, this is called Chroma-Key Blue. Included with your videotape was a swatch of Chroma-Key blue cloth that you can use to match up with fabric from a fabric store or to be taken to a paint store that computer matches colors from a swatch sample. A half gallon easily covers an entire wall in your studio. To obtain the best results out of Chroma-Key, you should use at least 2 video lights mounted high and to the left and right of your key subject, thus ensuring a minimum amount of shadows on your background. And of course, make sure that your key subject is not wearing any shades of blue that come close to the shade of your background color, unless you intend it that way. Your subject should stand about 2 feet in front of the colored background, and the camera should be fine focused on the subject, not the background. Assign your camera input to the B bus and your overlay video signal to the A bus. Bring the T-bar down to the B bus and set the slice control at about 12 o'clock. Then fine-tune the hue control so that your overlay video signal is at its clearest. Now fine-tune the slice control so that your key subject becomes distinctly separated from the background. You may have to do some slight movements of your video lights in order to obtain the clearest image. The fade control section provides master fade capabilities to the MX-50 in that it can fade the overall video signal, the audio signals passing through the MX-50's audio mixer, the downstream keys graphics, or any combination thereof. The video signal can fade out to black, white, or one of the chosen background colors. Also, the overall video signal produced in the MX-50 can be faded to the video signal that emits from the A bus or the B bus, thus emitting a crossfade from video with effects to a single unaffected bus. This function can be used for creating the spotlight effect that you've seen on this video for highlighting certain portions of a video screen. We'll show you exactly how to create this effect later on in this tape. The fade of video, audio, or downstream key can be affected either manually or with the auto fade button, which has a variable speed transition that is displayed in the LED window. The final control panel section of the MX-50 is the audio mix section, which blends the audio signals from whatever is assigned to the A bus, the B bus, either of the 2 auxiliary inputs, or the microphone input. The slide lever on the far right of the mixer section is a master level control, which sets the overall volume of the audio mixer's output. Even though the hookup of the MX-50 is relatively simple in that the input and output jacks are laid out pretty logically, we'll still take a quick look at the interface options that are available. Starting left to right on the rear of the unit, we find a demo switch that puts the MX-50 through its paces when two different video sources are supplied to the first and second input jacks. Next to it is a reset switch. When it is turned on, the MX-50 will default to its factory setting of the control panel. When it's turned off, the last memorized panel setting will return just as it was before the MX-50 was previously turned off, with the exception of the still mode, the strobe mode, and the special mode. The L-shaped box next to and below the demo and reset switches is the Source 1 input block, which is identical to the input block for sources 2, 3, and 4, except 1 and 2 offer XLR balanced audio inputs, and 3 and 4 provide RCA unbalanced audio inputs. On each input block, there are two video inputs, both 4-pin YC and BNC composite. Those of you with JVC Super VHS VCRs will have to obtain 7-pin to 4-pin cables from either JVC, Comprehensive Video Supply, or MarkerTech. If both the YC and composite inputs are simultaneously occupied, the YC input will take priority over the composite. Video input sources plugged into any of the 4 channels can be VCRs, time-based corrected or not, video cameras, gen-locked or not, Laserdisc players, or even the NTSC video output from some computers. The Edit Control Source Select switch configures the MX-50 to receive specific input select commands from the Panasonic AG-A800 Edit Controller via the serial editing controller interface on both the MX-50 and the A800. The advanced sync outputs are used to send a sync signal to your 2 source VCRs that have external sync receiving capability to provide additional editing accuracy. If you don't have external sync on your source VCRs, or if you're only using one VCR with external sync, leave this connection out of your wiring configuration, and leave the VCR's internal-external sync switch to internal or video. The advanced sync output is for use when no time-based correction is in line between the VCR and the MX-50. If a TBC is being used, then connect the advanced reference output to the 2 time-based correctors' external sync input, or in the case of VCRs with built-in TBCs, connect it to the external sync in. Once again, these connections are only necessary if 2 source VCRs are being used in an A-B roll configuration. Auxiliary audio input 1 and 2 are for connecting audio sources such as a cassette deck or compact disc player, and the respective signal is sent to the MX-50's audio mixer. Auxiliary input number 2 shares the audio mixer channel with the external microphone jack. Use this selector switch to pick which one you want. The external camera input is either YC or composite video that goes directly to the external camera channel of the downstream keyer. It can be gen-lockable or not. The program out section delivers 4 identical signals out of the MX-50, 2 YC and 2 composite. All 4 may be used simultaneously for feeding your editing VCR, program monitors, or additional dubbing decks. The signal that appears at these jacks is determined by which button is selected in the program out bus. 1 pair of XLR balanced audio outputs are provided that deliver a +4 decibel signal to be interfaced with VCRs having the same rated input. The other pair of main audio output jacks are RCA phono-pin type jacks that will interface with virtually any other line level audio input. The preview output displays a signal created by the MX-50's combined bus effects section, and it will not change regardless of which program out button is selected. By the way, this output is different from other high-end video switchers in that it doesn't show the next inline effects bus, only the already affected signal. The black burst out signal can be used to send the MX-50's timing pulse to a gen-lockable camera or to edit controllers that require a black burst signal. The editing controller serial interface permits the MX-50 to correspond with either hardware edit controllers or computer-based editors that have either an RS-422 or an RS-232C protocol. This enables the automated and remote control of the MX-50 and virtually all of its functions depending on the software configuration of the edit controller. The GPI port, or General Purpose Interface, is a make contact switch closure that permits the remote control operation of the auto take function on the MX-50. And the main power switch turns the MX-50 completely on or completely off. This should be left on all of the time unless the MX-50 is being moved or serviced. Otherwise, all on-off power operations should be performed at the power switch on the control panel of the MX-50.
Hi, welcome once again to another exciting segment of Jog and Shuttle's Video Clubhouse.
Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. Step right this way. Step right up and see the latest, the greatest, the most unique chemical creation ever developed for removing these nasty, rotten, no good for nothing, gummy, slimy spine and face labels from your video cassettes. This stuff is called Dissolve It, and it works like magic, let me tell you. All you do is simply put a little on a piece of paper towel or an old dusty, musty rag, wipe it on and let it set for about 15 minutes. For the sake of time, we've put it on a few minutes ago to just show you how simply, marvelously this stuff works. That's it. It's gone. It's off. $3.99 at your local drug or variety store as opposed to $40 in the video catalogs. You gotta be crazy to spend that kind of money. Dissolve it. Remember it. Use it. This stuff really works.
When the MX-50 became available 6 months ago, it did so amidst the presence of what some would call competing units. Sony with its DME-450, JVC with its KMD-600, and of course NewTek with their computer-based video toaster. The Sony DME-450 in effect isn't really a video switcher, but rather a digital video effects generator that toggles its special effects channel back and forth with an overlay channel. The DVE effects are quite impressive, but AV roll transitions are limited to one effect at a time. Street price on the DME-450 is around $4,500, and it would be a nice unit to have to supplement the effects of the MX-50, not replace it. The JVC KMD-600, which was recently discounted even further down to about $5,000, probably resembles the MX-50 mostly in appearance. However, even though it's equipped with 2 time-based correctors instead of 2 frame synchronizers, it's limited to only 9 white patterns and basic slide compression effects. And as far as interface options go, the KMD-600 will only accept professional gen-lockable cameras, which can get expensive if you're doing a 4-camera live switch shoot. Don't get me wrong, the KMD-600 is an excellent unit, but it doesn't offer the crossover features from professional to high-end consumer that the MX-50 does. And here's where all of the prospective MX-50 purchasers can compare Panasonic's new marvel with the much talked about video toaster. I'll try to be objective when presenting a contrast between these two units, and it's almost unfair to say that they are both competing for the same market, because in fact they are 2 different systems altogether. However, let's look at their similarities and try to do an across-the-board feature comparison anyway. The MX-50 passes the higher resolution YC video signal and the video toaster doesn't. The toaster has what it calls organic type effects and the MX-50 doesn't. The MX-50 is a hardware standalone switcher with a reliable T-bar and control panel that can be accessed immediately for any effect. The toaster is computer-based and has a tendency to crash every now and then, and its T-bar is a computer mouse. And accessing different functions often requires you to stop everything that you're doing and change to a different option screen. The MX-50 permits the use of overlaid titles while switches between buses are performed. The toaster won't allow you to run its video switcher and its character generator at the same time. The toaster has an excellent animation program and the MX-50 doesn't. The MX-50 can capture a freeze frame on the fly, and the video toaster has to go into a still frame cleanup mode before you can proceed on to other effects. The toaster will accept only time-based corrected VCRs, and the MX-50 will accept any video signal, time-based corrected or not. You can hook up 4 consumer-type cameras to the MX-50 and live switch between all of them. The toaster requires the more expensive gen-lockable cameras if you want to switch between live camera sources. The MX-50 displays a clean picture-in-picture compression, and the video toaster's PIP has that pixelized computer look about it. The MX-50 is an all-in-one portable switcher that travels quite well to your on-location shoots. I wouldn't let a nice computer with its fragile hard drive and other components bounce around in the back of my production truck. Would you like a brand new $10,000 3-chip camera for free? Well, here's how you can get one. The basic video toaster unit costs about $5,000. Add to that another $5,000 or $6,000 for inexpensive time-based correctors. You'll need at least one for every source VCR that you run into the toaster. $1,500 will buy an accelerator board to bring the toaster up to workable speed. Figure $1,000 for additional memory, and another several $1,000s to upgrade all of your cameras to the Gen Lockable type. And now you've easily spent over $14,000. Since you've got that much money burning a hole in your pocket anyway, buy an MX-50 for less than $4,000 and then go out and pick up that 3-chip camera with the rest of your money. I did. Okay, so you want to have those video toaster effects anyway. You just have to have Kiki Stockhammer's legs floating across the screen. You love that breaking glass effect so much that you trade your favorite camera for it. Isn't that pouring glass transition neat? How about the windshield wiper effect? Pretty slick, eh? And don't forget the camera shutter snapping a picture onto your freeze frame. Guess what? I'm performing these transitions on the MX-50, not the video toaster. How'd you do it, Steve, you ask? Well, I put the video toaster in the switcher mode and recorded its transitions with black over a white background onto a videotape. I then played that tape back to the downstream key section of the MX-50, assigning it to the opposite bus that the video signal is coming in on. I can either have the downstream key signal be a background color or perform a little trick called layering or double passing and make the keyed signal another video signal. Double passing involves the recording of a special effect onto a videotape and then playing back that tape through the MX-50 and combining it with another effect. Oh no, another generation of dubbing. Hey, don't worry that much. In a lot of cases, video signals coming out of the MX-50 look better than the ones going into it. A client brought me an edited tape that he did himself on a VCR with a clogged video head. Needless to say, the tape looked terrible. However, after playing the tape back to the MX-50, the videotape was cleaned up and stabilized to the point where you can view it now. Right now, you're watching a direct connection dub between a low-end industrial VCR with slow motion capability. The MX-50 smooths out a good portion of the instability and strobing effect when played back through the digital mixer's frame synchronizers. We'll cover a few more double pass effects in a minute. How do we do the video picture inside of the wedding album effect? Simple. As mentioned earlier, any video signal that is mixed in the luminous key mode will appear in a dark area of the primary picture. By placing a black card inside of the wedding album, the keyed-in signal automatically locks onto it. Have you ever wanted a better body? Well, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it, whether you know what to do with it or not. This is done with the scene grabber mode of the MX-50. Capture the head inside of a circle wipe and scene grab it. Now place it on another body from a different bus. In Elite's Video Digital Mixer Companion videotape, John Cooksey showed us how to create what he calls the Patty Duke effect, which refers to the 1960s sitcom where Patty Duke played both herself and her identical cousin. This is done by recording yourself on one side of the screen and then combining that video through a digital mixer with a soft center wipe while the camera captures a clone of yourself. The trouble was that you couldn't cross over the center of the picture without disappearing. Using the Chroma-Key function on the MX-50 lets you perform the same effect without any worry of geographical boundaries. Just record your first alter ego on one tape and then play it back to the Chroma-Key section of the MX-50 while your second self appears before a Chroma-Key blue wall or backdrop. If you're a musician, here's your chance to finally play with yourself. Speaking of other special Chroma-Key effects, having a Chroma-Key blue wall behind you and also having another one in front of you, you can actually blend into the scenery that's being keyed in behind you. This same procedure is used for your basic Superman effect. Drape a Chroma-Key blue cloth over a table and lay across it as aerial footage is keyed in below you. And of course, by wearing a Chroma-Key blue cloth, any part of your body that is covered by it completely disappears. Did you think that fly-on and fly-off titles could only be created by computer nerds and special graphics software programs? Well, guess again. The MX-50 is doing these fly-ons and fly-offs by recording the title card from a copy stand while simultaneously effecting the special mode. Make sure that the title card is in black letters over a white background and the alternate bus background color is also white. Now play this tape back to the downstream key section as its fly-on titles get keyed over the other bus's video signal. Hey, now that you got that brand new MX-50, you can now perform color correction. Wouldn't it be nice if you could correct colors correctly? Well, if your TV monitor's color is slightly off, any color correction you do is going to be way off. Let's take a look at how to set up your TV monitor with proper color alignment. First, turn on your TV monitor, the VCR that feeds it, and your MX-50 with the color bars called up in the mat generator. If you haven't bought your MX-50 yet, color bars are displayed for several minutes at the end of this videotape. Turn the color completely down on your monitor. Some monitors have a color off-on switch. Now adjust the brightness control so that the black bar on the far right of the screen is true black, not dark gray, yet not beyond the threshold of black. Turn the contrast control all the way to the left and start bringing it up slowly until you have a pure white on the far left color bar. Once again, not grayish white and not bright white. Now turn the color back on and turn it up slightly higher than normal so the colors are exaggerated. Adjust the tint or hue control until you have a balance of pure magenta and pure red. Now look over at the light blue and green color bars and make sure that they are defined separately as well. Yellow should be banana colored and dark blue should be royal blue. Turn the color back down slightly so the colors are not saturated and they don't bleed over onto one another. Some high-end monitors have a blue-only switch that when engaged and color bars being fed through the monitor will display a pattern of alternating light blue and dark blue if the tint control is adjusted correctly. Now if you don't have a blue-only switch, looking through a number 47B gelatin filter will give you the same illusion. Number 47B gelatin filters can be purchased through most photo stores. Once you're pretty sure that your monitor is set up correctly, run a broadcast television signal through the monitor and once again fine-tune the tint control while watching flesh tones. The spotlight effect is done by calling up a circle wipe and then placing the T-bar about halfway between buses. Assign your video source to the A bus and a background color to the B bus. Engage video in the master fade section as well as the fade to bus A button. Now make your adjustments with the T-bar for the spotlight size, the position or joystick for the spotlight location, and the manual fade lever for the spotlight intensity. Since the MX-50 has 4 separate video input channels, you can theoretically perform ABCD rolls between the 4 sources. This can include the simultaneous hookup of VCRs, cameras, or anything else that displays an NTSC video output. If you direct switch between any of these sources on the same bus, you will notice a slight freezing of the outgoing signal before it switches over to the new signal. It's best to do straight cuts on the MX-50 by going from source 1 on bus A to source 2 on bus B, and then over to source 3 on bus A again, rather than straight cutting on the same bus. By setting your auto take transition speed to 0, the next inline video signal on the opposite bus will appear immediately without the digital delay when you press the auto take button. A quick note about live switching with the MX-50. Since there are no video loop-throughs on the input channels, monitoring a given camera's signal will have to either come from a separate feed from the camera or by looping the camera's signal through a monitor with full back or loop-through video jacks. If you're having problems keeping your audio called up from your source VCR when switching to another source input, either use an outboard audio mixer or assign your VCR's audio to one of the 2 auxiliary audio inputs which remain constant during switching. As mentioned earlier, the MX-50 will not compress a still video frame, nor will it allow still frames to be used in the special mode. Here again, layering comes in handy by recording a frozen video frame on one videotape and then using that as a source tape when performing any compression or fly-on effects. Trust me, you're not going to notice any drop in quality due to this additional generation when passed through the MX-50. The same holds true for placing 2 compressed video picture-in-picture windows on the screen at the same time. Record one PIP on a videotape with the window on one side of the screen, then use that as a source tape to be combined with another compressed picture when going through the MX-50 onto your edited tape. In the opening title segment of this tape, you were watching 5th and 6th generations respectively. A quick word about the auto take button. You can push it a second time while it's in the middle of a transition to freeze its location on the screen. Once again to continue the transition. This can be performed in either the regular mode or the special mode. Remember the 7-Up TV commercials where everything was black and white except for the featured product? While in the Chroma-Key mode, push the mono button on the A-Bus digital effect channel, which will turn your entire background into black and white. Now just key in your featured subject, leaving it in living color. Also, nothing says that you can't use other digital effects while in the Chroma-Key mode, including the multi and trail function. And speaking of the trail function, it doesn't have to be used by itself on one bus when it's effected. You can combine it with a wipe to another bus, a compressed picture, or a slow dissolve. And speaking of the multi function, you can dissolve from a 4-picture multi to a 9-picture multi to a 16-picture multi by feeding the same source to both buses and toggling between the 2 digital effects channels to up the multi number while the opposite bus is on screen. And since you can combine 2 different effects from the 2 different channels, a nice effect is combining a curtain wipe compression on one bus with its respective strobing multi on the other bus. Or even place a scene grab wipe from one bus and combine it with a multi. Last but not least, here are some final notes about the MX-50. Other brands of character generators such as the Laird, Knox, Foray, or Videonics Title Maker can be used with the MX-50 either as a standalone unit where the final output of the MX-50 passes through the ins and outs of the character generator, or the output character generator can be introduced into the downstream key section of the MX-50 by feeding the MX-50's black burst output to the composite video in of the character generator. And the video out of the character generator is fed back into the external camera in of the MX-50. Black over white from the character generator provides the cleanest signal for the downstream keyer to lock onto, and you might want to use the MX-50's drop shadows instead of the ones created by the character generator. This particular hookup scheme permits the use of the MX-50's downstream key background colors and fade function, as well as allowing you to utilize the preview function on the MX-50 for setting up titles while video signals pass through the Program A or Program B output buses. While in the Chroma-Key mode, making a transition from the B bus to the A bus with either the T-bar or the auto take button will make your key subject disappear. Placing the master level control on the MX-50's audio mixer at about the 3rd notch from the top provides the best and cleanest signal-to-noise ratio for your outgoing audio signal. When you go from an input source to a background color on a given bus, the last input source button will blink as a reminder of where you came from prior to selecting a matte color. And any still frame that is held in memory will remain in memory when going to or from a background color on a given bus. List price on the MX-50 is $5,500. However, the current street price is between $3,800 and $4,100. The current discounted price on the optional KB50 character generator is $435. For those of you who need to know how much room on their edit bench they're going to need for the MX-50, it's 18 3/4 inches wide by 15.5 inches deep by 6 3/4 inches high at its highest point. If you'll be setting the MX-50 into a cutout on your editing desk, a 17-inch by 13 3/4 inch hole is required. Another effect not mentioned previously is called after image, in which a slightly delayed trail of the primary image appears on the screen. This is done by assigning one source to both input buses, putting the T-bar about halfway between the buses, and then adding a minimum amount of strobe to one of the 2 effects channels. It should also be noted that VCRs not currently called up to the program out bus may be stopped and started for queuing purposes without affecting the synchronization of the MX-50. And finally, those of you with video toasters can use the MX-50 in lieu of 2 time-based correctors for feeding the signals of 2 VCRs into the toaster. Assign your 2 VCRs to input sources 1 and 2 on the A and B bus respectively. With the T-bar in the B bus position, send the output of the A bus out of the MX-50 by way of the Program A output button and derive the signal from the main program output jack. The B bus signal will already appear at the preview output jack. Now you have 2 separate digitally synchronized signals emitting from the MX-50 that would drive 2 video input sources on the video toaster. And if a camera is hooked up to the video toaster, these two VCR signals can be synchronized to it by feeding a Genlock signal from the toaster back into the MX-50's external camera input, since the MX-50's timing sync locks up to any external signal supplied to this jack. As you can see, there's not much the MX-50 can't do. A little experimentation on your part will probably reveal at least a dozen more secrets. Just remember, your only limitation is your imagination. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Steve Bolander.